Welcome to The Voice in the Darkness, the space where legends, myths, and darkest nightmares come to life on your screen. Tonight, whispering from the most shadowy corners of the internet and from the gloomiest forests around the world, I bring to you the story of one of the most unsettling beings that ever exist in the contemporary horror culture, the Slenderman. Before we begin this chilling tale, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so none of these dark stories escape you. Now, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and step into the story of the Slender Man. They say he's tall, thin, dressed in immaculate black suit, as he has an empty face, no eyes, no mouth, no nose, a specter that looks human, but never truly was. His arms, abnormally long, seem to move as if they are alive, able to reach the impossible. But what makes the Slender Man most terrifying is not only the appearance. It is that although he began as a creation on internet forums more than a decade ago, today his figure transcends the screen. Hundreds of people claim to have seen him in different parts of the world. Is he a digital myth turned real, or an ancient entity that disguised itself under a new name to adapt to our era? Join me, because what you discover tonight may leave you with an uneasy feeling every time you look towards the trees or into the darkness of an empty hallway. The Slender Man first appeared in June 2009 on an internet forum called Something Awful. A user named Eric Knudsen, under the pseudonym of Victor Search, posted two images. In them, children were seen playing at a park, and in the background, an elongated figure was with impossible arms watching them silently. What was most disturbing was not the picture itself, but the notes that accompanied it. In one, it was mentioned that several children mysteriously disappeared after that photograph. In another, it was suggested that the figure had been present at fires, catastrophes, and unexplained disappearances. What began as a simple Photoshop challenge became a viral legend. Thousands of users added stories, photos, and accounts about him. Soon, the Slenderman was no longer just an invention. He was a monster that fed our collective fear. Over time, reports of sightings began to multiply. People claimed to have seen him in the United States, England, Germany, Russia, Japan, and Canada. In England, the legend took the name the Tall Man. Local stories says that in woods like Cannock Chase, a dark, mist-covered place, people have seen an elongated silhouette stalking nighttime walkers. In Germany, some relate him to old tales of Der Grossmann, the Tall Man, a creature told of medieval stories that, according to villagers, kidnapped children who ventured too far from home. In Japan, recent stories mention a very tall being observed near forests and rivers at night, always accompanied by a paralyzing sense of panic in those who see it. In Russia, people claim that while walking along lonely snowy paths, they notice a tall, thin, faceless figure following their movements without making a sound. In Canada, some hikers report seeing a similar being in the midst of the boreal forest, causing intense chest pressure and unexplainable dizziness. In Mexico, there are legends of lonely places where people say they feel a presence of a tall, faceless man, especially in the wooden areas and old abandoned haciendas. These stories make many wonder whether the Slenderman is an entity that manipulates their mind, capable of inducing fear, disorientation, and even temporary paralysis. What you're about to hear are three stories we receive on our channel, The Voice in the Darkness. Out of respect for the people who trusted us with these testimonies, we will use fictitious names, but the stories are as real as the fear they convey. And before we continue, if you are listening now and have a disturbing experience you would like to share, remember you can send it to us. Here, your stories find a place to be heard. Our first testimony comes from Wisconsin, where curiously, the Slenderman legend was born. Amanda tells us that when she was a teenager, she got lost with her friends on a trail near to Nicollet National Forest. The sun had set, and their flashlights barely lit the path. Suddenly, they heard footsteps behind them. Not ordinary footsteps, slow, long, as if someone with endless legs was following them. When Amanda turned, she saw between the trees an extremely tall silhouette, with thin arms that seemed like snakes. It had no face. It was like looking at a white mask in the dark. The most terrifying thing, she says, was not seeing it, but what she felt, a pressure on her chest, buzz in her head, and the certainty that if they ran, they would never escape. One of her friends screamed, and the figure simply vanished into the mist. What would you have done if you were Amanda? Do you think the Slenderman was truly following them, or was just fear playing tricks on their minds? Have you ever felt that strange pressure on your chest, as if someone was watching you? If Amanda encounter gave you chills, wait until you hear the next story, because this proves that the Slenderman myth isn't confined to Wisconsin. From England, a man we will call Richard shared a disturbing experience at Cannock Chase. Richard used to jog at dawn. One winter morning, the fog was so thick that he could barely see a few meters. Suddenly, he felt someone watching him. When he stopped, he saw the silhouette of a towering man, far taller than any normal person. He stood still, motionless, like he was waiting for him. Richard assumed it was another walker, until he noticed the being had no face. Fear paralyzed him. Richard says that for the moment he lost all sense of time. His watch showed 30 minutes had passed, yet only seconds felt like they had gone by. When he reacted, he was several yards off the trail, with no memory of how he had gotten there. Tell me in the comments, what do you think happened to Richard during that missing half hour? Was a paranormal encounter, or just his mind playing tricks on him? Have you ever experienced missing time where minutes or hours seem to vanish without explanation? The story comes from the Black Forest in Germany. A young woman named Clara wrote that while camping with her family, she heard her little brother talking to someone among the trees. When she found him, the child pointed into the distance and said, "The tall man wants to play with me." Clara ran to take his hand, but at the edge of the wood she made out an impossible figure, a faceless man with long arms that seemed to touch the ground. The family packed up and left that very night. Most disturbing of all, weeks later, the boy still spoke to his new invisible friend, always describing him as the tall man. And if that wasn't unsettling enough, the next testimony takes us all the way to Japan, where the shadows of the forest hold an equally chilling presence. Yuki walked along near a mist-covered river. She felt invisible eyes following her. A tall figure appeared in the distance. Her chest tightened and her vision blurred. She tried to run, but her feet felt glued to the ground. When she looked again, the figure had disappeared, leaving only the whisper of the wind. If you think couldn't get worse, listen carefully, because in the vast Canadian forest, the legend of the faceless man takes on a terrifying new form. Liam, a hiker in Canada, described seeing among the fog a massive figure watching him. He felt dizziness, anxiety, and temporary paralysis. The sensation of being observed followed him for hours, even after leaving the woods. So tell me in the comments, do you believe the Slenderman is just a digital myth, or are these encounters proof that something far dark is stalking our forest? What is most disturbing about the Slenderman is that although we know he began as an internet invention, his shadow seemed to extend beyond digital stories. The testimonies, the coincidences, and the locations where he has been seen led us to questions. Is he an entity that feeds our collective imagination? Or a real being that found the internet as the perfect way to spread around the world? Each testimony repeats certain details: chest pressure, dizziness, intense fear, the feeling of being watched, signs that the Slender Man is not only seen but felt. This has been the story of the Slender Man, the tall, faceless man, a being that stalks the border between the reality and fiction. And if you want to hear a story that truly unsettles you, tell me in the comments which legend or experience you want to narrate on our channel. Remember, every time you look into a forest, every time you feel someone watching you in the dark, you might be watched by the Slender Man.